news came out about the false alarm about tsunami at 8 p.m. So everyone was panicked that time. So when I was a reporter and I called the police chief police district, then asked about the what we call the news. Is it true tsunami came into Tawau that time? So we as a local radio, we have to open our radio broadcast that time, even though we close at 7 p.m. But then because of the false alarm, we have to inform to the community that is only a false alarm. That is important of the local radio. And then some of the languages in Malaysia, as we know that Malaysia is a multiracial country, we have many dialects, languages, and also slang. So different dialects and slang, also the terms, terms or languages also is important about why local radio is very important. Because some program produced in certain dialect, like Kelantan in Kelantan, which is they use their own dialect to make a local community understand what government want to share the information to them. And then the focus on regional issues also, we will use the languages that they will understand. This is another way that local station can come into play as well. And for example, the RTM 24 state and district radio channels with local stations, they can have a more regional focus than bigger commercial, nationwide or global stations. Can we play the snippet?
Ini rancangan orang kampung kita, tak raja lagi jumpa dengan orang lawan. Muhabbat dil ka sukun e'tibar. Muhabbat itu mudahnya tengok cari pasar. Orang kampung
Dengarlah Radio Malaysia.
Kelantan FM.
Okay, that is Kelantan FM, the local radio, which is one program that they call as AKO. They use their own dialects. And then most of the revenues also the highest in Kelantan FM. And also compared to other stations also, the highest for state, the income for revenue for RTM. And then the third one is the unique programming. We have different contents with the different dialects and languages, and then also reflect the listener's point of view. Their programming is designed to appeal to their particular markets. These stations are made for and by local people, and focused and more localized. Due to this, their programming will very likely include the coverage of local sports teams and community events, programs where local people are invited to participate and discuss the issues affecting the community, and even their advertisements will focus on hometown business. Okay, this is the transmitter station, and then this is all the state stations and also regional, if you can see. We have about 96 transmitter stations in Malaysia. Okay, this is rating for Kelantan FM that you have listening just now. The highest state that generate income for RTM. The second one is Kedah FM. Okay, RTM also keeping up with the trends, whereby we also have a podcast. You can click the RTM click. Our station, radio station for state, also we have a podcast. you can listen to it. And then also the regional station also we have have a podcast also for each regional station. This is how the local community can listen to our radio. If not using the radio or in a car, they also can use. They also can click to our website or streaming or apps. Other than that, also, this is our listenership. Maybe after this, GFK will inform more about it. Okay, the usage of AI within RTM's radio. We also has done a few project or program using AI as our friend just now also mentioned about the 11 labs and also ChatGPT. So for RTM radios, through Trax FM radio, we had produced a documentary radio using AI. Can you listen to it?
VAT-69 Sovereignty documentary.
In the midst of gunfights, VAT-69 Commandos operatives navigate a maelstrom of chaos. Adrenaline courses through their veins, sharpening their focus on the task at hand. Their ability to think strategically in the face of danger is the cornerstone of their gunfight tactics. Retired Sergeant Ibrahim Hokan.
During the briefing, we were told that the enemy had great weapons. Then we realized this operation is between life and death.
So using ChatGPT, we can translate from Malay language to
The
English.
tragic events of
because
May
Trax FM
13th,
is an English radio station
1969
for
had a
RTM.
profound impact on the perception of unity in Malaysia.
When after the general elections, we had the
This
riots,
documentary
the racial
was
riots.
produced for
That was
our National
indeed a
Day
black dot
and
in the
also
history of our
coming
country.
Malaysia Day.
Tan Sri Lee Lam Tai was 24 years old during May 13th, who witnessed the turmoil first.
Okay. And the other one is IFM, is Chinese radio station. It's only about the opening for update news on IFM.
体育教育，家事国事天下事，事事关心。每逢星期一至星期五上午11点半、中午12点半、下午1点半和下午5点半。
IFM 事事关心。
Okay, hyperlocal marketing near me. Okay, RTM is the way to go, and optimizing business opportunities, optimizing business local near me, such as in vital to increase online presence, engage nearby customers, and boost your in-store sales, and also highly targeted for the local entrepreneur. They love to advertise their product in a local radio. Because they know their target is a local, the community will buy their product because they produce their own product in their own states. And then, of course, RTM budget is budget friendly because we are the cheapest what entrepreneur can buy for the advertisement, and also high ROI also. This is 3 states whereby they buy advertisement in radio, local radio, which is Kelantan FM, Sarawak FM, and then also Kedah FM. Even they are local radio, but their income is very high compared to some of the national radio in Malaysia. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
And I would now like to introduce our next speaker, June Pang, who's going to talk to us about her experience and her deep knowledge and insight in Malaysia. So, warm round of applause, please.
Thank you. Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. I think every market has its distinct characteristics, and that actually reflects on the media consumption's behavior as well, I believe. And that's the beauty of research. And I stand here today, as I did last year, to review the latest trends on radio consumption's behavior among Malaysians. And hence my title, Captivating Culture, Radio's Role in Malaysians' Daily Life. Okay. Just give a moment to go through the research design first. So we have the GFK radio audience measurement. It's actually selected by Commercial Radio Malaysia, CRM, since 2016 to represent the radio consumption's behavior in Peninsular Malaysia among people 10 plus. It's a survey that we done twice a year. We sample size 12,000 individuals per year or 6,000 individuals per year, per wave, among people 10 plus. Our methodology, we use a combination of face-to-face recruitment of 4,500 respondents using paper diary and online recruitment of 1,500 respondents using the e-diary. And then we will consolidate the database and weight it to the total population. Our core focus of these studies has always been the radio listening habits, because we ask about who listen, when listen for every 15 minutes, where they listen, and how they listen. On top of that, we also collect additional attributes. The key is to actually understand the lifestyles about radio listeners. We ask about television watch, internet usage, and also their consumption behavior on household products. So that's about the methodology. Now I'll move on to all the numbers and the statistics. I will compare two waves of data so that we see the trending. So it's based on the recent data, which is wave 1 this year, compared with the wave 2 last year. Okay, so first, radio remains strong in Malaysia. 21.4 million of people 10 plus continues to listen to radio in a week. And that actually represents 97% of people 10 plus in Peninsular Malaysia. And these numbers actually covers across listeners across all the devices. That means not only just traditional radio sets, but also digital platforms such as people listening via TVs, mobile phones, and also tablets and PCs as well. If we look at weekly radio listeners across past 2 waves, we see, as I mentioned previously, 97% of people listened radio in a week. And that figure actually remains stable since last year. And if I look across different age group, you can notice that actually the reach is at 95% and above across all age group. And in particular, if you see 55 plus years old, it remains stable at 97%. And I would like to highlight also one age group, which is 40 to 54 years old. And that's the highest reach across all the other age group. That is 98% of reach. So it's a very promising numbers for radio listeners, okay? And now I come to time spent listening for a week. In a week, averagely people listen to radio 12 hours and 55 minutes. If I look across age group, highest goes to 40 to 54 years old, which is 13 hours and 48 minutes. So across, and the lowest is among the 10 to 24 years old, which is still high because it's contributed 11 hours and 53 minutes. And one point to highlight is that across all age group, daily they actually spend more than 2 hours in a day listening to radio. Next, if I look into a trending compared with wave 2 last year, so you will notice that there's an increase from 12 hours 22 minutes to 12 hours 55 minutes this wave. And if I go to 10 to 24 years old, it still shows a growth. 25 to 39 years old, there's an increase of 7 minutes. And then 40 to 54 years old increase from 12 hours 55 minutes to 13 hours 48 minutes. And lastly, 55 plus year old, slight decline, but it's just talking about 4 minutes there, okay? So if I go to the next slide, now I look into radio listeners' profile. We dissect into 4 distinct profiles. I start with the gender first. So it goes about half-half, 15% male, 50% female. And what's interesting is about the age group. So the largest share goes to 40 years and above, which holds about 40% there. But this age bracket actually, it aligns with the total population profile in Malaysia. If I look at region, so Malaysia is quite big in a way. We have like Central, North, South, and East Coast. Central, which has the highest population, they account for the highest number of listeners as well, which is 36%. And finally, working versus a non-working adult, majority of the listeners falls into the working adult segment, which is 55%. So one I would like to highlight is that we know that radio listeners, everyone has their own preference towards which radio station to listen to, even I myself, right? But what's interesting about Malaysia is that I think Malaysia radio stations manage to offer something for everyone in the population. Hence, you can see that the numbers actually quite align with the population profile in Malaysia. So the next slide. Okay, so what I find very insightful about the study that we've done is that we can break down for every 15 minutes. And this slide actually shows from 6 a.m. in the morning goes to 6 a.m. in the next day. If we look at the trend, we can see that the highest peak is at 8 a.m., which is what we call as breakfast segment, with 8.5 million tuning in. But another point that I want to highlight here is that we also observe an opportunity during the midday segment. Okay, so about 10 to 12 o'clock, there's an increase of listeners quite significantly compared to the last wave. We have looked into weekday, which is Monday to Friday. Now we look at weekend. So weekend, we expect a different shape because it's a non-working day, okay? But the peak is actually at 10 a.m. with 6.2 million tuning in. As we progress into the afternoon's day part, it kinds of, the listeners actually declining slightly. Yep. If we look at, now we break down by different age group. Okay, so, but I actually cut into 5 data points here for every 3 to 4 hours interval from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight. So I will look at the youngest age group first, which is 10 to 24 years old. It started quite steady in the beginning, but it went up peak during the 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. segment. Next, 25 to 39 years old, which are the millennials age group. These are more distinct pattern because it started off high during the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. time frame, and then when during the working hours, the number of listeners declined, but it went peak again during 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. segment. The next one, 40 to 54 years old, this age group actually mirrors the shape of the day with 25 to 39 years old as well. Lastly, 55 plus years old, which we have a very unique pattern here, because in the morning, even though they started lowest compared to other age group, but it remains stable during the morning, and then it goes slightly decline, but it went up again during 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. segment. So this is on weekday, but overall we can see that breakfast segment and drive segment still consistently remain as the most popular day part that actually attracts the highest number of listeners across all age groups. Now we look at weekend. So if I deep dive into each age group, 10 to 24 years old, 25 to 39, 40 to 54, and 55 plus years old, what we notice a compelling trend here is that people are still listening to radio during the weekend. And it's not in particular specific age group, but across all age group, people are still continue to tune in. So that's, I think, a very positive message because not only just weekday, but people are listening to radio during weekend as well. Okay, this is a very interesting slide for me, in Malaysia, because in terms of location, that's the beauty of radio as well. You can listen to radio anywhere, right? So the most popular location in Malaysia is car. And we see there's an increase. Because previously in COVID, definitely it gets impacted, but now it has a rebound. From 68%, it has increased to 74%. Home, we see a slight decline, but there's still 3 in 5 listeners listen at home. Workplace and elsewhere remain stable at 9% and 3% respectively. So we look at each location across different timings of the day. First, we look at car, okay, which makes sense, the trend, because the peak is actually very focused on the driving time, which we have the traffic jams in the morning, which I believe all of you guys experienced this morning, and then also during the drive segment. Then it follows by home, which we notice steady listeners throughout the day, but it went down slightly during dinner time. And then towards the end of the day, I think people, they start to be relaxing at home, people start to tune in radio again, and that's where we see there's a peak towards at night as well. Workplace, very concentrated towards the standard working hours. Elsewhere, it's just quite flat throughout the day. But what I would like to highlight about this is that we notice that each location, it complements with each other. Yeah? So people are actually tuning in regardless of where they are, whether at car, home, workplace, or elsewhere. We look at different age group because I guess different age group will have their different preference towards where they listen to radio. We start by exploring car listeners first, which we will see there's a preference among the 25 to 39 years old and also 40 to 54 years old. Because these two age groups, actually the reach percentage is higher than the total population. In contrast with home listeners, we see the preference actually skewed towards 10 to 24 years old and also 55 plus years old. So it's quite different in terms of the location inclinations for different age group, car versus home. Workplace, it shines among 25-39 years old because they have the highest at 14% there. Lastly, elsewhere, more resonates towards the younger age group, which is 10 to 24 years old. So elsewhere cover places they can be listening at cafes or at their schools, which are like university as well. Okay. So we look at also devices. We talk about location just now. So we look about how radio is listened. FM radio sets still the most popular. People tune into radio, which account for 92%. But we also have other devices. Okay? In Malaysia, television is the second most popular device people tune in to radio. So there are 20% there, followed by the mobile phone at 17%, and lastly, PC and tablet at 4%. I think just now, the previous speaker has also mentioned, the beauty of Malaysia, we have different races. Also then, we have different languages. And that, I guess, is our remarkable aspects of Malaysia, the diversity that we have. And also, hence, Malaysians also have different language of radio stations to cater to a wide range of audience. We have Malay language. If we look at the weekly listeners, they have the highest reach. But also because we have in terms of number of stations, Malay has the highest number of stations in Malaysia at 64%, followed by Chinese language at 22%, English at 18%, and finally Tamil at 8%. If we look at time spent listening, Malay language stations has the highest time spent listening, which is more than 12 hours, followed by Chinese, more than 10 hours there, English language at 6 hours, 18 minutes, and finally Tamil language with more than 12 hours. That's about using the numbers from radio audience measurement. I also want to introduce additional insights that we actually ask people why they listen to radio. This actually will reaffirm why radio is still relevant and significant in this modern age. What we actually did is we have a study called GFK Radio Insights that we survey people that are aged 15 to 49 years old. We started off with, we asked respondents their perceptions towards different features of radio. And they are asked to provide their skill from 1 to 10, which we categorize them as poor, average, good, and excellent. When it comes to excellent, enjoy music played by radio is the highest. Next, we have updates on current trends or news. And then we have also discovered new music and traffic updates, which account for like more than half of listeners there. They actually rated as excellent. But in summary, I just want to highlight, we noticed that radio is more than just broadcasting, right? It's also about the experience that the audience will resonate with. Aside from that, we also asked if they actually choose a radio station to tune to, what actually is rated important for them. We see that there are common factors that are universal across all, which is music, entertainment, information, news or traffic reports, which we know is not uncommon for this to come as top. But I also want to highlight, it's not just about the essential, but it's more than that. Fun, religious, radio announcers, we have a significant portion of listeners actually say it's important for them as well. We have also asked them why they choose to listen to radio during festive or holiday weeks. Because I have people ask me, if during Hari Raya, does people still tune into radio? Because it should be going to like relatives' house or on vacation. But the reasons they give is that festive celebration content. People still go to radio because they want to listen for in the celebration mood. I guess radio also created that vibes as well to the listeners. Music and information. We know music is universal when it comes to celebration. And then also, I guess radio also give them information on what happens, any holidays, events, or campaigns they are going on, traveling in the car, and then when they have more free time during holiday. And last but not least, radio creates happy and lively vibes, which I think all of us can agree to that. Radio station social media engagement. We know radio now is beyond live broadcastings. It's more than that. We have close to 4 in 5 respondents interact on radio stations or announcers' social media page, more or the same during festive or holiday weeks. When it comes to the activities, most actually say they see the videos or photos posted by the radio stations or announcer. We have also over half that read or comment about music or celebrity news. And we have about 40% share their photos and personal experiences. So it's not just about, listeners are not just passive, but they are also very active, they're very vocal, and they're very engaged. I think today we also talk about, nowadays, in-car radio experience, right? Because technology and music unite, we want to how listeners can actually increase their in-car radio experience. We actually asked them if their vehicles have an in-vehicle infotainment system among the Malaysians. So 71% of the respondents' vehicle actually has the in-vehicle infotainment system. But we also noticed that when they choose to connect with the radio, AM and FM tuner is still the most popular at 78%. They also will connect via the Bluetooth, which is at 59%. And lastly, via the radio application available on the system, 50%. I just noticed that there are more than one method that actually listeners will use to connect to the radio. So it just shows that radio listeners are very flexible and they just continue to explore different ways to listen to their favorite radio stations. Okay, good. I'm in the summary slide now. In conclusion, radio has proven to be a medium that is constantly evolving and adapting to changing conditions. Radio remains strong in Malaysia. Somehow we can see that when economy already fully reopens, we see there's a rise in the radio listening. In-car radio consumption has actually increased, and then it already rebounded to pre-pandemic levels because we have 74% of individuals aged 10 plus are actually listening to radio in car. Last but not least, radio and ever-evolving media. Local coverage, entertaining programs, mobility, and its ability to foster engagement in the community are what makes radio continue to play a very important roles among Malaysians' daily life. And that's actually end my presentation. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. Thank you so much to June. And just to say that we're going to break for coffee now, but after the coffee break, it's about 20 minutes long. Come back to this track for a really interesting look at 2 very different radio markets and also a meet-up with radio players. So enjoy your coffee. I think there's some buns, have some sugar, and we'll see you back here in 20 minutes.